Okay, well, I can't tout that I enjoy his scent unless they do a 4D release of this where they end up having scent features.
Did you know in Fromage that Leo smells like roses?
It's like roses. You like them smelling like roses. I guess I like them smelling like fire and who fucking knows?
I don't kink shame. All right. We here at the Annie Chat Box do not kink shame, especially Cammy.
Thanks. Bonjour, mes amis, c'est Camille, and thank you for tuning in to episode 144 of the Annie Chat Box, where we good friends snuggle up in a teeny tiny space to talk about all things anime. It's actually kind of a special box today. We actually climbed out of the box, went up into our cozy little Shoujou Treehouse. So of course that means joining me today is my bestie, bridesmaid, and all around a wonderful person that I look up to, and that is Cassie.
I had literally known no French, and Cammy came in here just playing it up and just putting the bar so high, and I'm like, parlez-vous français?
Hey, that was French. That was French. That was good.
Omelette du fromage.
Omelette, that's right. Get it. Omelette du fromage. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
That's how I'd survive in France if I knew 3 words. Nah, I took French in high school, but I honestly haven't retained a lot of it. I used to sing in French a lot, so I can pronounce it really well, but I can't really formulate sentences because I've never been good at grammar. So yeah, it's not going to last long. If you are wondering why we're talking so much about France and speaking French, that's because for this episode of Shoujou Treehouse, we're going to be reviewing a little show called Croisée in a Foreign Labyrinth, or Ikoku Meiro no Croisée, and it is animated by Studio Satellight. Other shows you may know them for include Shugokara, Macross Frontier, and Bodacious Space Pirates.
Ooh.
And it aired way back when in summer 2011. The story takes place in the second half of the 19th century. As Japanese culture gains popularity in the West, a young Japanese girl, Yune, accompanies a French traveler, Oscar, on his journey back to France and offers to help at the family's ironwork shop in Paris. Oscar's nephew and shop owner Claude reluctantly accepts to take care of Yune, and we learn how those two who have so little in common get to understand each other and live together in Paris of the 1800s. So I watched this show last year, and then I henceforth did not shut up about it for a really long time. And Cassie, being the wonderful person that she is, was like, "Aw, well, Cammy really likes this show. I'm gonna try buying it." Also, because I think it was pretty cheap.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it was only a couple
somewhere.
bucks. I think I bought it at the same time I bought my my Flip Flappers BD box set, because they have these amazing Sentai Filmworks sales all the time. It's why I will never buy anything full price from Sentai Filmworks. Not because their products are obsolete, but because every single last one of them will go on sale, inevitably. But I bought my Flip Flappers box set, and I saw Croisée, and I was like, where have I heard of that before? Oh yeah, it's that show that Cammy keeps going on and 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 on about. It should be good. I guess I should buy it. And then it sat on my shelf for several, months, and I was like, man, one day I'm gonna watch it. One day. And she's like, I'm gonna put it on a Shoujou Treehouse. And I'm like, she rigged it.
I mean, look, you set it up for me by buying the DVDs.
It's true.
It was off of High Dive. You could have gotten a way out, but you trust me a little too much, and then you bought the DVDs, which I love you for.
And we watched the first episode of this together when you came to visit for Christmas. And it was nice. It was a very nice, way to just kind of chill and have something to watch together after we've been apart for so very long. So yeah, it is good mood piece. It was a good background / something to really kind of get the soft friend mood going. It was good.
My biggest takeaway from when we watched episode 1 was Lily just constantly dropping Japonese because that's how they said Japanese.
I honestly,
in the show
like, at the beginning
times.
of every episode, they have this French guy talking about, oh, this sweet little Japanese girl is in France, and this is how she's doing. And then, of course, every time he's like, Japanese, I would just kind of giggle. I was like, oh, God damn it, Lily ruined everything.
Japonese!
Yes.
But yeah, so that's the story we are going to talk about today. Croisée, a little show about a little girl that goes to Paris in the late 19th century. And I think to kick us off, actually, on story, I wanted to know what you thought about the setting of this show, because I think that it's very unique in that it takes place back in history, being in like the late 19th century, and it's in a time of France that's, and for me, like, I don't really have a lot of familiarity with like the setting of France either.
No.
So it's just, it kind of sets itself in a very unique place for the kind of show it is, you know, like a feel-good slice of life. I wondered what you thought about that.
I think one of the things that I immediately fell in love with about this show is not only is it specifically taking place in Paris, France, but it's also taking place within a very specific, like, marketplace. The gallery or gallery or
Yes.
and I really kind of got that feeling of when I kind of watched Tamako Market and like everything took place in like one little centralized community. And then even though they left that community occasionally, a lot of the intricacies of the story and how the characters interacted occurred because of that marketplace. And I kind of felt the exact same way with this. Most of the people that you interact with are either tied to the gallery or are frequently going there, or people who own it, or there's always some sort of tie to this specific location. And even though other locations are mentioned, we never actually go there outside of the Blanche household.
Very true.
Which I think was a choice, and I really like that. I enjoyed that they really made you stay there and really got, I don't know, that this feeling of like community, but also this feeling of isolation that Yune definitely struggles with throughout the story. So I think the setting was very nice. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I had never gotten the ties to Tamako Market, but now I'm just like mind blown. That is an awesome revelation, and I totally see it. And it's kind of similar where it's like the roofed kind of maze market. I assume that when they say Croisée in a foreign labyrinth, the labyrinth is referring essentially to the gallery because of the way that it like weaves around and it's like a bunch of corners. And like you said, that really is the crux of kind of the closest thing that like grounds Yune to like a home.
Yeah, for
in
sure.
France when she's in this new country. Yeah. And funny enough, like when I got to go visit Paris, like all I wanted to do was like find something that resembled the Galerie du Roi, because I was like, you know, forget all the monuments and stuff. I just want to feel like I'm Yune and Croisée in a foreign labyrinth. So I like looked for one. And it was a lot smaller, but like I just died when I saw like the ironworked like gateway sort of thing, because I was just like, oh man, it's like the anime. It's so good.
It's just like the animal, the Japanese animal.
The Japanese anime.
The Japanese.
I'm a weeb no matter Japanese. I'm a weeb no matter what country I'm in. It's a sad truth.
It's true.
Yeah. Another thing that I really like about this show is the multitude of topics related to society, traveling, and culture that the show touches on. They mention a lot about fashion, economics, kind of gender roles and social restrictions, food and music.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you, as somebody who did travel and live abroad for a little bit of time, did you have any reflections about your time in China when you were watching this?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think that one of the things that Croisée made me feel was nostalgic for that sense of being somewhere completely foreign and wanting to, as somebody who is a guest in a different kind of culture, really trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, what's polite, what isn't polite. And you want to be a valued guest. You want somebody to want you to come back, not, you know, be like, oh, great, another foreigner.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very, I guess, thin tightrope to walk when you're in a foreign country. And I think that they do a really good job of showing not just cultural shock, but reverse culture shock for a lot of the characters involved. Not only is Yune having trouble adjusting to the new customs and the new food, like her eating cheese was hilarious. But the new food, the new people, how, you know, you're not supposed to smile at everybody, the way that you greet people in Japan is different from how it is in France. But also they do a really good job of showing like how Claude and, did the grandpa have a name? Oscar. Thank you.
Oscar, yes.
How they both were also trying to adjust to, you know, Yune and her needs as someone who's traveling abroad, and how those kind of things can both be beneficial but also can clash at times. And they did a really good job of showing how that fallout could lead to some more understanding as well. So yeah, I ate that up like some cheese. I ate it up like some cheese.
Not like pickled plums, not like umeboshi, the very sour ones.
I feel like I would not. I feel like I'm a total Claude in that situation. I don't think I'd be able to handle it.
Oh my god, I love how soon Claude is about Japanese food, where he's just so hesitant about it, but then when Yune makes something good, he's like, I don't really want to, like, try it, but you could make some more cooking, I guess, baka, and I'm just like,
I love when she walks in on him eating some of her leftovers. And he's like, it's not what it looks like.
Oh my gosh, or like the moment with food too. Okay, Alice, all of the Alice shenanigans actually are another really good look at culture clashing, because like Alice wants so bad to embrace Japanese culture, but she is a very overenthusiastic, naive girl who thinks she knows what the culture is, and there's so many times when Yune, like, gently is like, that's really offensive, actually, like, you're doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then, when she made them, like, green tea, and then she put sugar and milk in Yune's, and she's like, we don't usually do that, oh, but it tastes good, and then Alice is like, well, I want it bitter, and it was, like, too bitter for her. It's like,
and then her foot cramped.
Good stuff.
I died. I think we'll get more into this when we talk about characters, but I really thought that I wasn't going to like her. Just because the initial...
Alice?
Yeah, because the initial feel I got from her is she wants to own Yune. That Yune is this foreign, like, prize to be won. And I hated that a whole lot. When she was first introduced and just the way that she interacted with Yune really frustrated me. But I think that the show does a really good job of, like, very silently teaching her a lesson. Like, nobody ultimately, at the end of the day, comes up to her, sits her down, and says, you're being kind of a dipshit. But through interacting with Yune, through interacting with Claude, and also, to an extent, reflecting on her interactions with her older sister, Camille, she's able to learn. And I think that that's one of the other things that this story does well, is silent learning. There's almost never a situation where somebody has to be sat down by mommy and told exactly what's going on. No, like, they figure it out. Yune especially does this a lot.
That's a really good point. Like, it's able to be subtle but still deliver very strong messages. There's just, like, an eloquence in the writing, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really nice. Nice. That makes me happy. I think I had another note. Oh, I wanted to ask, I guess, would you categorize this show as, like, slice of life or Iyashikei?
Yeah. If anything, I think it could be a very big poster child for that particular genre. Like, there's nothing particularly fantastical about the story, and for the most part, it's not even that particularly dramatic. It's just really about somebody's life in a foreign country and her interactions with those people and those people's interactions with her. And in that way, this is the purest form of Iyashikei, I feel like, or of slice of life, because that is what it is. Yeah.
I like that it approaches slice of life just from, again, like a very unique lens by adding that historical context, the cultural context, instead of, like another like high school girl slice of life. Like, those are good, but I think that Croisée manages to stand out in a lot of ways within the genre.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love that. And it did make me cry a lot while I watched it. I cried out of mostly happiness. Usually it was just like very soft, tender feelings, and I would just like shed a little tear. And you did as well?
Oh, yeah. I never like gross cried while watching Croisée, but there were times where I was like, oh, this is just so soft, and I feel like I've been touched. Like I feel like I've been, someone has reached out and gave my soul a gentle pat, you know? Like, that's just...
Yeah, it's very tender.
Yeah, it's never, like, emotionally manipulative. It's never trying, per se, to make you feel any specific way. I think that it just does a really good job of saying, this is the situation, and hopefully you can take away something important from it. And if you do, great. Then you might cry like a little bitch baby.
Yeah. Oh, man, no, the episodes, like, Sick and Lost just destroy me.
Yeah.
Like, at the end, with feelings. And they are very good. And then you did, I guess I feel like you could mention it in story, right? Like, kind of your main qualms with the series.
Yeah, because
that falls in here.
Because when we get to characters, I'm going to do nothing but gush. Because the characters are the centerpiece of this particular work. I think that the setting also is, like, the second most important thing. But when it comes to the writing, I think most of it is masterwork. But I think that this being an adaptation of, it's a manga, correct?
Yes.
A manga that unfortunately wasn't finished. And it being a 12-episode series, there are story plot points and beats, that are introduced. They are introduced well, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm always interested when they give you, like, a taste of a little bit of, spicy drama. I actually did, like, a big Twitter thread while I was watching this show, starting from, like, episode 3. And I remember at one point I was like, ooh, things are getting spicy. And I was there for it, but it's like they introduce these little crumbs of intrigue, but because it's a 12-episode anime and based on a manga that's never going to be finished, they're introduced and then it's just kind of dropped. Like, oh, I hope you enjoyed this brief moment of drama that we're never, ever, ever going to come back to. Bye. And that did leave a little bit of I won't say like a bad taste in my mouth, but it was just kind of like, that was sweet. I liked it. I'd like more, please. Oh, you're sold out. That's unfortunate. Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's like a bummer.
Yeah, it's
really.
like, it didn't ruin the story for me, but it did kind of take me out of it a little bit, especially, like, I would say that the last couple of episodes in the show were not as strong as the rest of the show. Like,
I could agree to that.
Yeah, like, I think they were still very strong, but I don't think they were as strong because I felt like I was kind of getting weird emotional whiplash from going from, oh, here's a really sad story about somebody's, sister or somebody's ties to their social class or so on and so forth. Things that are very interesting and intriguing, but it doesn't matter because we're never going to go back to them or why they're important.
Yeah. And I guess I wonder a few things. I know that the manga got written past where the show ends, but I don't know how much of that was like, especially because, like, this was, 2011? So you're nearing the end of that era where a lot of anime just kind of did an anime-only ending.
Yeah.
They didn't even hope for a second season. So I almost just wonder if it was, like, that sort of decision.
Possibly, yeah.
Either way, I would have liked to see more. I think there are two specific elements that I really, really would have liked to see some realization on, but we might drop in on them and spoilers or something, we'll see. But also, I feel like, at least because it's kind of, like you said before, it doesn't do anything too fantastical. I can kind of, in my head, picture what I think would happen later down the line. Or maybe I just, like, headcanon certain things to my biases, but still. So I wasn't, like, completely disappointed by the ending, but I definitely can see it as kind of like, oh, this is a bummer, or it, like, it was handled a little more clunkily than the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally fair.
Yeah.
Did we want to go into characters?
I would love to. We have a lot of characters to talk about. I guess we could talk about the ones that are most important.
Okay. I will say in my notes, my first note under characters is in all caps, I love them all TBH, which is pretty true.
Yeah.
I really love this cast. But to go into my favorite one, it's definitely Yune for me, which is actually kind of a surprise. I think you and I both have talked about, like, main characters and how if anything, we will kind of tolerate them, or they'll be, like, okay. And especially, like, just looking on the box, it's very easy, I think, to picture Yune as just, like, this cute little, like, moe girl and not really anything else to her. Mm-hmm. But her role in the show, like, as the centerpiece somewhat, makes her integral to what makes the show special to me. I love seeing how she's affected by her time in Paris, and I love how Parisians are affected by her. She's kind, she wants to believe in others, she has a strong moral ethic, and she's very thoughtful. And like you said earlier, with, like, characters learning, I do feel like she learns a lot throughout the show. She challenges herself, and she's definitely not the same girl that she was when she arrived on day one. You know, looking all, like, fascinated at everything, like it was just a big treat. She is, like, not afraid to necessarily question things. I actually was impressed on rewatch how many times she doesn't, like, argue because she's Japanese. She's not gonna full-blown argue, but she's like, I don't understand this way of thinking because to me, this is how things should be. Like, especially in the ways of, like, interacting with other people. And yeah, I love her. She's really sweet, and I just love how everybody loves her and how she loves everybody. She's good, and I like her a lot.
I agree. I mean,
that's good. I'm glad that she wasn't, like, annoying or anything.
Oh, no. I think that if you don't like Yune, then this anime is going to be a complete failure. Like, because it's not like a main character in that, you know, like, they're just leading us through the story. Like, everything that happens in this show, from beginning to end, is hitched on Yune's thoughts, Yune's feelings, what she's willing to interact with, what she's learning not to interact with, who she trusts, how she learns to trust. Like, everything is centered around her. And if she was not well done, then the show would have just flopped. Especially for me. But I think that they do a really good job of just making her not that typical Japanese moe archetype that we always see. She feels authentic. This is a legitimate Japanese person who's going somewhere new. And everything that she does, cute or otherwise, isn't because she's an anime character. It's because she's a Japanese person. And that identity is very important in a show like this. And they did a really, really good job of making that her character isn't a trope. Her character isn't an archetype. Yes. Her character is a real person. A real authentic person who lived and breathed in Paris, France at some point in time. Or at least they did a really good job of making me believe it, you know? Like, so, she was great. I liked her a whole lot. I loved her interactions with other people. I loved that she wasn't always the most perfect individual. She made mistakes. And she learned from those mistakes. And other people learned from, you know, when they wronged her, slighted her, or made her feel uncomfortable, they also learned from that situation as well. So yeah, she's a great main character.
Yay! That is good. But please tell me about probably my second or third in my top three. Your favorite character in here.
Oh yeah,
a very good girl.
Good old Alice-sama. I love her because, like I said earlier, I kind of gave a little bit of a free sample to how I felt about her character, but I found her to be a very annoying individual when she was first introduced. I thought she thought of people as tools, if not just pawns, for her own amusement. And she's also the rich girl, the token rich girl of the series. So I was ready for them to make her just a pure villain. I was ready for her to be the antagonist of the series. I was ready for her to come in every episode and fucking ruin everything. And to be fair, sometimes she shows up and just fucking ruins everything. but not so much because she's malicious, but just because she's a disaster. And I think that's one of the things that makes her great, is that she is a disaster, but she's somebody who's just so creative. She's someone with so much energy, and she's somebody who we only barely get the scrappings of understanding how, like, complicated her, like, social situation is.
Yeah.
There are some very interesting conversations that she has about how nobody expects anything from her. And when she says it, she says it like it doesn't matter. But I think we can kind of tell from her behavior that it does. And she's almost always, it's almost like she has a, oh God, what is that called? Where you like can't really get a hold of your own identity because you're constantly comparing yourself to somebody else. Imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like she is constantly comparing herself to her older sister, and even though she idolizes her older sister and thinks her older sister is just this beautiful, picturesque version of what she should be as a noble woman, she doesn't believe any of it. So I think that if we had more time to go into like her character, she could be even more interesting than she always is. But honestly, if you just get what's on the package, she's fun. She loves Yune. She's such a fucking weeb. She is like, she tries so hard to embrace Japanese culture and fails horribly. And if that is not the most perfect representation of a weeb, I don't.
God, yes.
At least she's willing to admit when she messes up, though. She's like, oh no, please teach me the right ways. And her willingness to learn and also change her views is really nice. I think at the beginning of the show, you could definitely see that she saw Yune more as this oriental object that she wanted to, like, I don't know, own. Like, I think there's even a point where she's like, how much can I pay to have her? And by the end, it's just, oh, I want to come over and draw pictures and just show you this, like, this really cool painting I have on the fucking roof of my room because I'm extra and wanted to draw up there one day.
Dragon's so sweet.
Dragon's so sweet. And also, like, she always, regardless of her views on her specific social standing, she's always had this awe about things that are away from where she is. And Yune is already experiencing being somewhere that, you know, it's far away from who and what she knows. So it's like these two ideals and these two different individuals are able to come together and really benefit from each other. It also helps that they're both very young and they're obviously getting to know each other as like just girl besties. And it's soft.
They are such besties.
It's soft and it's good. And by the end of the show, I just was so in love with her. She's very good. Also, her design is like chef's kiss. Her design is my favorite design in the entire show. Like, I love Yune's design. Claude's also got a very soft design. Her sister's very elegant. But I just love how Alice looks. She's just perfect. I love her. Love her.
You said so many good things in there, and I'm probably just going to reiterate stuff that I literally think that Alice is the 19th century weeb. Like, she is the spirit, I think, specifically of very ignorant, like, tweenage weeb years.
Oh,
like, she reminds me of being an 8th grader with, like, fucking anime fan art that was, like, printed illegally, like, on my binder and all this shit. And you're just, like, you're so enthusiastic and you have all this passion, but you don't really know where to direct it, so it gets kind of misdirected. And you're just, like, naive. And I do think in many ways she is very naive, but I think that her ignorance is something that she will outgrow. She's already showing that she's outgrowing it as she progresses through the show. And I was thinking about it while you were talking about how she is able to learn to respect the culture. I think a lot of her interest in Japan at first is very material.
Absolutely.
But then through meeting Yune, she kind of learns to embrace, like, the Japanese, like, social aspects, like, way of life, you know, like, respecting people and kind of, like, having grace and delicacy about you and things. And I feel like that's impacted by Yune's friendship, and that's really sweet. I love them. And I love that since she was a little girl, all she wanted to do was meet a girl in Japan and they'd fly away on a dragon. God, she's so cute. She's so good. I love her. I just really want to talk about Claude real quick because I love Claude a whole lot.
My feelings about him are complicated. Let's have you go first.
Enlighten.
You go first.
Well, I mean, I like that he, how could I put it? I think deep down he's honestly like a softer person than he lets on. In the first episode, I was actually really impressed there's an incident that Yune causes, and he's shown to be very, like, hesitant about Yune in the first place, and there's something happens, and I swore he was just gonna get super, super mad, and instead he kind of, like, takes a breath and is like, okay, I got it, I'll take care of it, whatever, it's fine, and he, like, backs away. I swore he was gonna yell at her, and it was gonna be all this, like, dramatic stuff, and I was like, oh no, okay, he's just moving on. I am a bit impressed by that, and I think that, probably for me, my favorite relationship in the show is his relationship with Yune. Like, they just, it's kind of to me like a Rei and Hina thing. Like, they're just very tender with each other, and they, like, slowly begin to break down each other's walls, and I love that, and they teach each other things. He's not perfect by any means. No. He gets angry about a lot of things, but I think for me, I understand it due to his upbringing and just, like, what he's been around. And even just, like, him not understanding a lot of delicacies with, like, women or girls. Like, he fucking grew up with his dad and his uncle in, like, a dingy, like, ironworking thing. I think his personality makes sense. And while he does some things that I think are frustrating, I think that A, I can understand where they're coming from, and B, I do think that he learns and resolves to not, you know, be a jerk. I think that there are times where he admits, like, what he might have did wrong or what he values. And his character design is just so fucking handsome to me.
I love his blue eyes.
And, yeah. I love his eyes. He's a good boy, and he says a lot of things that just really make me cry. Like there's nothing more important in this shop than your safety.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I cry. But yes, no, please enlighten me. I would love to hear, because I think it's understandable to feel complicated
for
about
sure. Because, like, for the most part, I really enjoy the moments of tension between him and Yune, and I think most of them are pretty well done. I think there were a couple episodes in particular where it seemed like he was getting extremely angry and forceful with her in ways that made me feel slightly uncomfortable. There's, like, a part where she, like, obviously was not trying to do anything wrong, but goes to, like, touch an object that I guess is important, and he literally pushes her away, rips it out of her hands, and is like, get the fuck out. Like, he's so savage. And and he's the same way about this poor little kid who, if anyone is gonna understand, like, the current society putting children out, it should be him. So, I still don't really completely understand why he was such an asshole to this fucking 4-year-old. And I don't know. Like, those are the only parts where I was just like, you are kind of being super angry, and you should probably go and talk to somebody about your problems. But by the end of the show, they do a really good job of really kind of dissecting the fact that he has trust issues. And that he also has a very hard time explaining things to people when it comes to his own personal feelings and emotions. And by the end of the show, he's able to come to terms with that. But because all of that happened at the very, very end, it made me appreciate him more in hindsight than it did in the moment as I was watching the show. Now, don't get me wrong. I fucking loved Claude through most of the show. I think that the normal moments of tension between him and Yune, the miscommunication, the soft moments that they have when they're able to rely on each other, not just him to her, but her to him as well. There's a particular scene where she explains to him why the Japanese appreciate sound so much with, like, her umbrella. And he, like, so softly, like, looks up at the umbrella and is like, oh, I get it. And they have so many, like, fucking good moments that they way outweigh the moments where I felt uncomfortable, but they definitely were there.
That's good.
I love Claude and Yune as a unit. I think that I will be very sad when they inevitably have to part, but I didn't have to see that in the show, so who cares?
see, plus, I was so sad if that happened.
I was so scared that's where they were gonna go, because the beautiful French grandpa Oscar makes this comment at some point. He's like, you just don't want to let people in, because when they inevitably go, it will not work out for you. And then Claude like solemnly looks out the window, and I'm like, wait, bitch, what? But But no, that didn't happen. Everything's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Claude overall.
I
It's just, I wish he would take some anger management classes.
I think definitely, like you said, I guess and I guess it's also just because, like, I don't have I don't have anything that would make me, like, relatively uncomfortable with that, and I know that you do, so it's, like, processing that. I just feel like with the glove, it's his PTSD, and yes, he needs therapy for that.
Oh, absolutely. And again, like,
and then
they explain that, though. Like, to the story's credit, like, they take a moment where they go, listen, this is why he acted the way he did, and probably the reason why he acted the way he did through most of the show, but it came at the end of episode 12. So
Did he also say sorry? I can't remember, honestly.
He did. Because she said sorry. She said, I'm sorry I touched the gloves. And he's like, listen, it wasn't even ever about the gloves. And then he, like, opens up about, you know, the stuff with his dad and blah, 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 blah. Without going into, like, spoilers for people. But no, like, he doesn't exactly say I'm sorry, but he explains, like, this is why this happened and you're not at fault.
Well, that's good anyway.
And he goes into why, like, those particular gloves, like, mean so much to him, and it has absolutely nothing necessarily to do with what we all initially think it is. So there's a lot of, like, trauma that he's trying to overcome as a person, but they don't explain that trauma until literally the last 15 minutes of the fucking show, which is fine.
And again, like, I want to know if that's in the manga or not. Like, I want to, because I agree with you, it feels so clunky, and I'm like, was this in the manga, or was this, like, an anime-only thing? Because it almost does feel like that specific tension moment really feels like, oh, last-minute arc drama, let's go! Chop, chop, we gotta do it.
We might have to read and find out. Who knows, maybe it's even done more smoothly in the manga, I'm not sure. It might be worth looking at. But honestly, like, these are nitpicks. Like, I can't be positive about everything. I won't.
I try. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just like,
Binoculars good.
Try on a pair of rose tinted lenses, Cassie. I love them. Oh man. So let's also talk about Camille, who honestly, like, I'd heard of Croisée. I'm going to be honest with you. The reason I decided to pick it up in the first place is one day I Googled anime that had characters with my name in them. And she came up in Croisée, and I was like, let's check this out, shall we?
Yeah. I remember at one point I messaged you on the side with a bunch of sad faces and was like, Camille! Not you, the anime character. But
the other one, Camille LeBlanche.
Yeah, yes. I want an entire anime series just about her. Like, I would like that. I want an anime series that explores the intricacies of being a woman in this century France. And who knows, maybe it exists somewhere, but they, like, start dabbling into, like, very interesting metaphors, like bird cages and how that fits into the clothes that they wear every single day. And there are several shots of her, like, behind bars, particularly in her backstory, but also, like, just in general. And I think that they do a lot of metaphorical and, like, just, like, talking without or telling without saying in her arc specifically. And I just was so sad because there's this realization that Yune has, and she talks to Claude about it, and it seems like maybe, just maybe, like, we'll get some closure for Camille, but no, that does not happen. Soft spoiler for the Camille fans. I'm sad.
You know, I like her a lot. I haven't always been able to fully understand the choices she makes. And maybe this is just me, again, too, with, like, what I grew up with. But girls that can be more catty or, like, cruel are ones that, like, I don't necessarily understand. And she's not cruel. She does at times get upset, and you know that it's due to external things, but she's not fully communicating it to people. And on a second watch, I could understand more of it, and I really liked it, but I also just, like, wanted a bit more clarity. I feel bad for her, and I feel like she's in a situation where she's making a bad decision to just for herself to spare the safety of other people. That's like my biggest takeaway with her, and I'm just like, oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. Please don't tighten the corset.
Yeah,
don't do it.
That scene.
I'm so sad.
That scene, though. They're like, don't push yourself. And she's like, I am doing no such thing. And I'm like, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And I feel like and again, we talk about the bird cages metaphor. I think that in her two closest relationships she has, especially the one she has with her sister, she is making choices to kind of benefit them in ways unknowingly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's something that Alice, at this point, definitely doesn't realize, but she may as she gets older. And then somebody else kind of learns. I know that you mentioned that in your Twitter. You were like, oh my god, this is a big moment. Wait, what?
Yep.
What happened?
Yeah, but nothing is...
Yeah.
I think that Camille is honestly one of the biggest instances of missed opportunity, because she gets a couple of episodes dedicated specifically to her, but we're only introduced to her struggle. We're only introduced to her trauma and her pain. And again, like, Croisée isn't a show that's about drama or necessarily pain.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of heavy topic suddenly appear was welcome. If anything, I was like, oh, I'm interested in seeing how this might play out. But then it just doesn't go anywhere. So that goes back to my problem that I have with the story, because they have this beautifully set up character and this beautiful story that just borders on a whole bunch of different social topics, and just goes nowhere. It's just done. It's done. It's dead, Jim.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think it depends also, it's like if you're looking at the show episodic or like as a entire plot. I think the only reason it might not have bothered me as much is because I think I looked at it episodic for the most part. Or maybe I also surrendered. I think
honestly,
I don't think I even held hope.
It's like,
honestly.
It's a 12 episode show. I don't know why I got my hopes up. If anything, I kind of just wanted to have Camille and a very specific character just have a conversation. I think that's just like a 2-minute conversation where they could have some closure, because the only other conversation that they have in the rest of the anime is literally one that ends on a lot of, like, I don't know how to really explain it, but like unsettled feelings. It is. And
you're absolutely right.
And you know what? At the end of the day, not everything in life is going to be solved. At the end of the day, life is cruel, and some people are forced to do things that they don't want to do, and sometimes people are self-sacrificing to a fault. So I appreciate that Camille is there, but I just wish that we had had a few more episodes to just like kind of tie up her thread, even if it was kind of like a bittersweet one, instead of just having it just kind of end. And the same thing I could say about Yune's backstory. I feel like we just have barely... Because that's the thing. I love Yune as a character. I do. I love her. I think that she does great from beginning to end. But when you give me something that, like, fleshes her out as a character, but then don't follow up on it, I feel a little bit jilted, because obviously there are very specific reasons that Yune wanted to go to Japan. There are not Japan, to France. And there are reasons that her sister wanted her to go. There is a lot of stuff to unpack there. And they were like, by the way, here's a free sample at the Costco. If you want to buy the full version, it's on aisle 10. We're sold out because of coronavirus.
Oh my god! Oh no, the awful pandemic has been injected into our sweet slice of life review.
Yes. That's gonna date this somehow.
I think that's very true. And I do think for me, out of all the drama in the show, I think I was also the most jilted by Yune's, especially because, like, the way that she reacts to certain things is, like, nothing we've really ever seen. Like just her being so sad, and I'm like, I haven't seen this, and then they kind of try to write it off, and I'm like, but that's like,
oh, here's this.
Is she okay?
Here's this sweet Japanese girl living in France. She's learning to cook and learning to clean, learning to get to know everyone around her and everything. By the way, past trauma. She feel guilt.
Yeah.
She carry guilt every day of her life. Back to going into France. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
And it was at a weird time. It was like right after she got day drunk. And I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, right?
I totally get that.
Into the night.
Oh my god. No, I feel you on that a lot. And I do think especially that point is just so dropped in a weird way. I did have one question, and we might be able to slip into like a teensy tiny spoiler room. But I did want to know if you got a sense of like romantic undertones between characters in the story.
Yes.
Did you like that, or was it kind of like what'd you think of it?
This is a loaded question.
See, it's hard.
Yes.
Would you have liked the show better without any romantic undertones, I guess?
I want to know what their ages are, because that's the only thing that's causing me trouble, because I thought that Yune was just like around the same age as Claude maybe at the beginning, but just she's Japanese and she looks young. But the more the show goes on, and especially as she's interacting with Alice, I'm like, how old are these girls? I actually don't know. Mm-hmm. Because there definitely is some romantic coding in the show. However, I don't know how old specific characters are. And that's the only thing that's making me feel kind of, oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a thing that I see in the future, and all I'm gonna say is I'm just really fucking here for it.
Oh, like, yeah, totally. I am totally here for it. Like, the only thing that made me feel awkward was I was getting towards the end of the show, and I was like, I kind of ship this. Not gonna say who it is, but
no.
I'm like, I ship this, and if anything, I was like, oh no, are we getting like a triangle with one of the episodes?
Yeah!
I was like, is this gonna get even more spicy? Like, oh, mama not ready. I didn't bring a fan or anything. But, that ended up not being the case. But yeah, I definitely am all for it, and especially knowing what the ages are now. Totally. 10 out of 10. Perfect. Don't care. They're great for each other.
Just makes me, I just really eat it a lot, and apparently it is more inclined in the manga. It's made a little bit more clear in the manga, which is cool. Even though I'll never know Endgame, and I'm big sad about that. But still,
that's what fanfiction's for.
It is, and headcanons. All my headcanons.
Every last one of them.
I loved how you described Oscar earlier. You just called him, like, beautiful French grandpa.
Oh, I love beautiful French grandpa. He is my favorite grandpa. He's so good. He is also the fucking troll. He is the troll of the series. Like, Alice is up there, but grandpa can run circles around her for days. Also, he a ladies' man, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, he just, like, travels and they're like, oh, he's off to see one of his, like, girlfriends or whatever. No big deal.
Whatever. There's, like, a part where Claude is just like, yeah, let him have his fun. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was this part where he, like, comes back and he's like, oh, I was just worried about Yune. And he was like, your girlfriend dumped you, didn't she?
Well, even in the beginning, when Claude meets Yune, he's just like, man, Uncle, quit it with your, like, weird things bringing girls back from other countries. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, he, like, thought Yune was, like, a maid or something. And I was just like, oh my god. No, he's not bad. He's very sweet. And I don't know, he just adds a little bit of, like, moe grandpa joy whenever he's on screen. He's good.
I also love the ongoing, like, implication that he's, like, a magician. That Yune thinks he's just got magic powers.
Oh, yeah.
And he obviously does know some tiny little tricks, because he does that, like, disappearing sandwich trick or whatever when they go on their picnic. But yeah, he's just a good old dude. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I also love that I think he softly ships too. I think he softly ships.
I think he softly ships everything because he also teases about, like, cats, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no. He plays the room. He's just like, listen, he wants the spice. He's so bored. And he's like, all I have is Claude. And he has got, like, the girl power, he has no influence over women whatsoever. And he's like, dude, how does my nephew have so little game? Like, jeez.
Actually, that's the other thing about Claude that I forgot to mention, is I just love how often he gets flustered and blushes like a boy tsundere, and I'm just like, you dumb idiot, look at you. You're blushing. It's cute.
It's cute.
People tease him all the time.
He is the picture of a male tsundere, and those are one of my favorites. Like, I love tsunderes in general, but male tsunderes, Seth.
Yes.
I think the other thing that helps with male tsunderes over female tsunderes is male tsunderes don't tend to hit the people that they're, like, interested in.
Yeah!
Like,
yeah!
You know?
It's true.
Just gonna put that out there.
Well, and I even feel like with Claude, he doesn't mean to be. It's literally when he's just, like, backed into a corner and people are like, oh, all the kitties ran away. And he's like, can you stop using that metaphor, please? Please, no more metaphors. Yeah. Any other thoughts on characters, or do you want to dive into production?
I would love to dive into production.
So, don't do this to me, Cassie. Cassie's tormenting me with my weakness. Okay, I will say, though, actually, in art, what did you think about the, like, you know, it's very circa early 2010s, kind of like bug-eyed moe, like specifically in Yune's case. I guess I wondered what you thought of, like, her character design. Did it ever take you out of it, or, like, was it okay for you?
No, it's fine. Like, I think that
That's awesome.
I think for me, they were purposely going for what the audience would recognize a Japanese person in anime as. And that's why everybody else, I think, has those muted, like nobody has as big as eyes as she does. No one is nearly as short as she is. They go through they made an effort to make her look very Japanese and what we as viewers would recognize as Japanese in an anime show. So I never had any problem with it. Also, they changed her kimono that she wore, like, every single episode. So they put a lot of attention into her character, and they're all extremely intricate designs. So
the fashion in this show.
Oh,
God.
All of Alice's outfits. So like, maybe minus the corsets, but, like...
Yes. Oh, my God. I want everybody's clothes, like all of them. They're just
except
Claude.
Okay, maybe
not like Claude or Oscar's
I was about
clothes.
to say Claude.
Yeah, Claude has one outfit.
Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there, just real quick. There's an episode where they talk about not wasting bath water, and
I knew you'd bring this up.
And it is heavily implied that Claude does not bathe, and it looks
lower middle class.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry.
And he definitely wears the exact same clothes every day after sweating and firing up brimstone. So I get it. I even made a tweet about this. I was like, I get it, but this boy has got a bit fucking filthy. Like, like, you can smell him coming, I'm pretty sure. Like...
Okay, well, I can't tout that I enjoy his scent unless they do a 4D release of this where they end up having scent features.
Did you know in Promare that Leo smells like roses?
It's like roses. You like them smelling like roses. I guess I like them smelling like fire and who fucking knows?
I don't kink shame. All right. We here at the Anti-Chat Box do not kink shame, especially Cammy.
Thanks. Back to production stuff, though. I'm glad that you also like the character designs. I do a lot. I just feel like some people, especially if, like, kind of moe isn't your thing, I feel like they would take one look at Yune and just be like, ugh, this show turns me off, which is too bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair,
it's too bad,
but it's also not fair. You know, Like, if it's not your, if it's a design flaw, I won't say a design flaw. Let me rephrase that. If it's a design that deters you specifically, I get it, but, like, you're doing yourself a disservice because in this case, I think it's being done for a very specific reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. From, perusing some My Anime List forums, actually, too, like, learning that Yune, like you said, is just purposefully so short, especially because the growth difference back then was also, like, even more stark, makes a lot of sense. It's, again, anthropologically, like, sensible, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you... Cassie's tormenting me in the chat, people. I just need to let you know this.
No, that would never happen.
Cassie!
I would never...
Stop!
Anyway, but no, yeah, for sure. I actually had a conversation with Zach about this because I guess he saw some of my tweets and he was like, why is she so fucking tiny?
Tiny.
And I was like, because for the time it probably made sense. And he was like, isn't that like a stereotype? And I was like, no. Like, on average, a young Japanese girl is going to be relatively short, and an older boy is in England or France or, you know, in Europe is going to be significantly taller than her. Like, it's just...
Yes.
It's true to form.
It is, definitely. And I think, I'm like, if there is any anime that you need to worry about offensive, like, stereotypes, I don't feel like this is the show.
No.
that, you know, you need to, like...
Like, even when... even when somebody's being, like, culturally insensitive, the show is like... Maybe don't do that. Like, maybe learn a lesson or two.
Exactly. I mean, this show is a cultural and, like, anthropological look at, like, people connecting across cultures, and it does it super well. I did have a couple little fun facts. I didn't go full Craig's Credit Corner because that's a lot to uphold. However, I can tell you that the director of this show, Yasuda Kenji, has directed things including, was it the original Boogie Pop? He did one of the Boogie Pops. It was. He directed the original Boogie Pop Phantom. He directed Macross Delta. But most importantly for me, he directed Shugokara.
Of course.
Which is... And it was by the same studio Satellite.
That makes sense.
As well. So I was like, no wonder. Also, the sound direction and series composition was done by one of my favorite dudes, Junichi Sato, who's like the king of comfy slice of life and like magical girl shows. And I was like, no wonder, for me personally, and then I would love to know what you also hear or thought about sound, like this soundtrack just like makes me feel warm and comfortable as soon as I turn on an episode.
Yeah.
It's not like outstanding, but it's nice. It's ambient and yeah.
I think the same could be said about, like, the openings and the endings. The opening is, like, very folksy, and the song is just very of the moment, and, like, all of the stuff they're showing is just, like, her wandering around France, and it's nice.
Yes.
I will say the ending I did skip eventually because I found it, I won't say, like, boring, but, like, it served its purpose the first time I watched it, and I was like, oh, this was sweet and cute and well-produced, and now I don't need to watch it anymore.
I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think in regards to, the music, I was fine. But I do have one small production gripe. And this is just, like, literally nitpicking at the most nitpicking. But there is this constant, implication that Yune is speaking both Japanese and French.
Yeah.
And, like, and this is, like, a really confusing thing that happened in, like, I believe it was, like, episode 1 or 2 or something, where they were like, you could speak French all along! And she's like, absolutely! And then the entire time they're speaking, like, fucking Japanese, because it's an anime. But it confuses my brain, and then by the end, there's, like, somebody who's just like, oh, Yune, your French has gotten so much better! And I'm like, okay. Like, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like a weird immersion breaker. I definitely get that, especially in the first episode.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just, like, it's confusing because they want you to imply that she's speaking French or that they're speaking French without them actually speaking French. Which would be fine normally because, like, of course they're going to speak Japanese in a Japanese production about a girl going to France. Like, everybody, it is implied that even though they're speaking Japanese in the show, that we are supposed to, in our brain, go, oh, they are speaking French. But when there's this back and forth in the first episode where, like, supposedly sometimes she's speaking Japanese and sometimes she's speaking French, but in the entire time she's actually speaking Japanese, I'm like,
Yeah.
It wasn't even that big of a deal. It's just one of the times where I was just like, what? Okay. This is fine.
Yeah, it's definitely a little weird. I totally get that. Yeah. And I don't know, like, how do you feel about, like, if this show should have ever had a dub, I guess? Like, because I'm like, would that have been effective? Or would it have been terrible and they would have all used, like, very fake French accents, like fucking Natalia, like...
Remember Victor from Mary on Ice?
Okay, yeah, I don't want the show to have a dub. Just leave it. Just leave it. It's sacred. Don't do that. I don't want to hear...
I think that a dub... I think when anybody asks me if I would like a dub of something, like, it's always going to be kind of like a monkey's paw situation. Because, yes, I would love for Croisée to have a dub. Mostly because I feel like this is a show I could show my mom, or I could show my sister, or show somebody who is not an anime fan, and they'd probably enjoy it because it's not so inherently anime, if that makes any sense. Like,
it does.
But they wouldn't watch something subbed, they'd watch it dubbed because they're fucking heathens. Nah, they're fine. But no, they wouldn't watch it in a sub. If I was going to try and introduce this to somebody who's not somebody who frequently, reads subtitles, then I would want to give them a dub. But I feel like a lot of the confusion that I already have with this would just be made even more confusing by an English dub. Like... Yeah.
I get that. I definitely get that.
But, I mean, I wouldn't be upset about it, but it would have to be done very well.
Yeah, that's what I'd want.
Yeah.
And considering it's under Sentai and I am kind of mixed bag about their dubs, it's fine the way it is.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Voice acting overall I thought was very solid.
Yeah.
Your girl Alice is played by a very prolific voice actress, Yuki Aoi.
Oh,
she does a ton of stuff. I'm going to pull up her page real quick.
She's good. She was probably my favorite voice actress in this entire show. Because she's just so very in character. Like, every emotion. And Alice has a lot of emotions. She has so many emotions. She did an amazing job.
Sasuga Yune-chan. Yeah. She is a very good girl. Oh, hey, fun fact. She's actually the main girl in Gossick, and Gossick is by the same author as Croisée, which is pretty cute.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, she was...
FF
I'm trying to
fact.
find things that you know.
I said a little FF. Fun fact.
Yes. But yeah, I think everybody did a really good job, and I like it. I have very little production complaints as well. I think I could agree with you on the language thing. It was a little iffy. But other than that, okay, the backgrounds of this show and, like, the architecture are so good.
Yeah.
They're just, like, incredibly rich and accurate and, like, to the point where maybe potentially I was, like, being hopeful, but also, like, on rewatch, the bridge when they're on the Seine, like, when I actually did a boat tour on the Seine and I saw those bridges, I was like, holy shit, it's the bridges from Croisée, and I got very emotional. It's just, like, they put a ton of attention into detail, and I recognized, like, a lot of the things that I saw when I was there, and just credit to them that they, they approached this setting and they really dedicated themselves to authenticity and, like, richness in it. So I really love that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Good world building. Yeah. Any other thoughts, or you want to jump on into ratings?
Ratings. Honestly, I can't think of anything else to say. I think that the production was very stellar, especially considering this was released when, honestly, anime wasn't at its best, I don't believe. Like, we weren't getting things like Rakugo and March Comes In Like a Lion. There were a few hidden gems, but, like, anime wasn't looking all that great back then, but this one looks very polished. I really enjoyed how much effort they put into, like, facial expressions and also just how people just the way that, like, emotions were given from one person to another, because like I said, there's a lot of silent storytelling going on between characters pretty constantly, and if this did not look as good as it did, it would have flopped as well. So, good on them.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then we can roll on into ratings, and because I picked this show, you get to go first. So I hope you weren't done talking.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, Croisée, I believe, is something that I went into cautiously optimistic because I didn't know a whole lot about what I was getting myself into. Honestly, even after we watched the first episode, I was like, okay, this is an interesting premise, but where are we going to go from here? However, I was pretty stoked because I knew it meant a whole lot to Cammy, but I was also having that awful fear of, oh no, what if I don't like it? Oh no. Yeah. Luckily, that didn't occur. I actually found this show to be very important and underappreciated. I had a small Twitter conversation with somebody recently where I was like, you know, I'm actually kind of surprised that this didn't make more of a splash than it did. And they made a good point of, well, it's very hard to sell this premise. And to an extent, I can see that being hard to sell. But for people who enjoy Japanese anime, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not checking this out, since you frequently, by being an anime fan, are dabbling into a different culture. It's nice to kind of see that kind of dabbling being done in real time. So I think that if you give yourself like a good Saturday afternoon and you just want to sit back and just enjoy something that's both soft but also challenging in a way because it makes you actually think, I think that that's one of the other things that I like about Croisée is I think with a lot of slice of life shows, I watch them not necessarily to think, but just to chill. Unless it's a drama. I think Croisée lets you chill, but if you are willing to actually put on your little thinking cap for 5 minutes, you can see all of the work that was put into this, and you'll really benefit from it. So long story short, I think that this is a beautiful production. I think it has a lot to say. I think it's got a lot of heart. I think that everybody who worked on this show definitely loved it, and you can tell. Every single interaction is thought through with poise and precision, and I just don't know what else I could say about it. I think for its genre, it's also a really good way to get people into slice of life anime. I think that if you're trying to get somebody who typically watches like action or sci-fi and is just wanting to dabble, I think that this would be a good starting point for a lot of people. Because it doesn't have some of the pitfalls that come with slice of life anime. I don't think it's ever necessarily repetitive. I don't think that it's slow paced. I think that it's just a good time and it feels real. And you don't get very many real anime. So I am going to give this the highest like it that I can. I don't think it's like one of my favorite anime of all time, but it's probably one of my favorite like slice of life shows. And for that, it deserves a very, very high like it. Very.
A like it plus.
A like it plus. Like tiptoeing into love it territory, but just being unfortunately brought short by it not having enough episodes to really make it a masterpiece. But it's close.
Cool beans. That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for your rating. Ratings. Yeah, if you've been following the podcast at all over the past, 2 years, I love this show, a whole lot. I don't know what it was. Kind of like Cassie, I walked into it not really expecting anything, and maybe that's also why I was impacted so much, just because, when you go in with low expectations and then it turns out great, just leaves me with a good taste in my mouth, I think. Yeah. This definitely just falls into a category of slice of life that I really like, which is just very tender and focusing on the interconnections of people and that shit just gets me very emotional. And it had some staff backing that I really appreciated. I love the look at different cultures. I love that it's such a unique setting. Like Cassie said, I also agree it's really kind of a unique, shining example of a slice of life show within the genre. So especially if you enjoy slice of life, but you're starting to feel like they're getting a bit repetitive, go back and give this one a watch if you can. I definitely recommend it. And I mean, I was able spontaneously to go to Paris after watching this show, and it was just, my trip was made all the more special because of the show, because I'm a weeb and I hyperfixate on things. So yeah, if you find that you have any taste in crossover with my taste in anime, and Cassie's of course, then I definitely think that we endorse you should go give it a watch. You should go check it out. And if you did check it out and you don't know what else you want to watch, Gossick, as I said before, is by the same manga author as Croisée, although Gossick had the pleasure of actually being finished and receiving a full adaptation. Yeah. And it also does have very similar European aesthetic and like fashion choices distinct to Croisée as well. So if that's something that you've really enjoyed, I think that you will have a fun time with Gossick. I will say I have only seen the like first 2 episodes. I've tried, but maybe sometime I will go back and watch it myself as well. So there you be. Have you watched Gossick at all, Cassie?
I haven't. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
I really like the aesthetic of it. I just have never had the pleasure.
Yeah.
I think somebody put it in like a birthday met for me like years ago, and that's how I found out it existed. And I'm like, I don't know why this is here, but it looks aesthetically pleasing. And then that was the last thought I had. So maybe I will go back and give it a watch. Maybe a look-see. We'll see.
Maybe we'll see. Who knows? Same. I think it's one of those ones that if I picked it up again, it'd be like my 3rd time, just because like I've tried and then fall off for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
All right, so that there concludes our review of Croisée and a Foreign Labyrinth. I have some social links to drop for you. I don't think we're going to go into a spoiler room, just because we were able to tiptoe around certain subjects.
Yeah, we good.
Taking advantage of our chat box window. So anyway, if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us at twitter.com/AnnieChatbox. You can send us some email at anniechatmail@gmail.com. Be sure to listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spotify, or YouTube. If you're interested in some of our patron-sponsored content, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. With, of course, huge shout-outs to Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol. Cassie is trying to trip me up when I'm reading social links, so I'm going to ignore the chat window. Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, Paul, TroubleClef, and John, a.k.a. Drango. We love you all so much. Thank you so much for keeping the lights on and being patient with us. We promise more patron content is on the way. And if you really, really miss Craig, if you need some sausage in this Shoujou Treehouse, go listen to Save Our Progress at soundcloud.com/Save Our Progress. I'm trying to think of their most recent episode. I didn't listen to it, but I think it's called like Toilet Paper Economics or something.
I haven't watched that one, but their episode before that was very funny because they talked about save stating at different points of your life. If you could actually save state and go back, but you only had a certain amount of saves. It was actually very entertaining.
That is okay. I have to tune in.
It's so funny.
Like me, tune in.
I think it's called
at SoundCloud.
I think it's called the Doink Zone or something like that. I can't remember.
The Doink Zone. I'm gonna go back and listen to that.
The Doink save. I don't know. There's doinking involved.
Awesome. Now, before I just sit here and look at these pictures that Cassie posted because she's mean to me, we would like to go ahead and bid you adieu for this episode. Again, this was episode 144 of Shoujou Treehouse from the Annie Chatbox. Go get yourself some good red wine and some cheese and just relax and take it easy. You all deserve it. You're great people.
Omelette du fromage.
Omelette du fromage. Omelette du fromage. Omelette du fromage. Okay. Bye. Folks.
That was cute.